Hi, Lindsay. How you doing? I've got you queued up here, and then over here I've got the instructions and the spec sheet. So, excuse me. Your selected object must be the dominant image. Make it bigger, crop part of it, and you do not necessarily need to see um, all of it to see what's communicated as to what it is. And I see that you've added this as your dominant image, which is great. And I have some other comments, but I just want to go through these specs first. Okay, I want to make some comments about the dominant image. This is a dominant image, but it's not dominant enough, and and the reason being is because this you've got the same color here, so these are you're kind of ping ponging back and forth as to which is the dominant image. So I think the size of this, also the color, and the placement is also making this um, hierarchy a little bit muddy in terms of what you want the audience to look at first. Um, must include an image of the object at use. Okay, and there you are using the object. That's great. And then you have an image that results from the use of your object, and you have this your scrapbook, which is the result of using um, the scissors. I was thinking, maybe a haircut. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, you're using the scissors as a design as opposed to exactly what you use it for. Does that make sense? So you could expand your visual vocabulary here by maybe adding something other than scrapbooking, okay, and still remaining interesting and loyal to the subject, which is scissors. Okay, I was thinking a couple of other things too. Your one paragraph of text and then your headline. Okay, and then down here we have this design requirements, and one of them is this: you must use a grid. And I'm looking here, and I'm looking and looking and looking, and I'm not sure I'm seeing a grid here. And there's a couple of indications. Number one, the distance between this and the edge of the um, file is different than this and the edge of the file. So that indicates a difference in the grid. It's not even. There's a couple of other things. If I pull a guide out right here, we can see that that text is not aligned with that image. So again, indicating that there's not a use of the grid. Is this side aligned? Looks like that side is, but I'm not real sure if that's intentional or if that's the way that you have this. I think that that's a coincidence. But anyways, at the very least, you have to have this vertical and horizontal alignment. So I don't see any alignment. I see some alignment around the center line here, and that's great. I see you using your own images, and that's great. I don't see any horizontal grid. And let me just show you why. And here's another indication of why. I'm going to pull a grid down to the top of your text, and we're going to see that it doesn't really align with the top of the scissors. So again, just little indications here and there, okay, that there's not a grid overlaid on this. Now, if you want to review the grid, go ahead and take a look back at that 5x7 grid we used in last week's exercise, and then also go into InDesign and jump on YouTube or whatever and take some tutorials on how to set up a grid using InDesign. It's a wonderful tool, and it sets up a real grid, with the little gutters between the grid lines. So look into that. Okay, so in a lot of ways, I think this is a very, very, very successful piece. I think you've done something really smart here that shows that you're listening and you're willing to experiment, and that's right here. This design in everyday life. You took some chances here, Lindsay, and that's great because you've emulated or you've duplicated or you've imitated the shape of the scissors with your type. And I think that's very interesting. And I think it took some guts to do that. And I think that in these few brief weeks, I've seen you breaking out of your comfort zone a little bit, and that's key to move on as a designer. So good job there. How can we improve the piece? Well, there's a couple of things I'm thinking about. I was just doing some looking around online, and I was just researching to try to find something we could help maybe create some interest. And I came up with this thing, and it's interesting because it got me to thinking that when you think of scissors and you think of the uses of scissors, so we think of this use of scissors as cutting a ribbon. And I think it's really interesting to use the typography in this ribbon format just to kind of show the relationship between the cutting and the ribbon and the typography. I think that's an interesting relationship. Um, Keep in mind these two relationships right here. Right now, this poster is so heavy to this side. It's almost capsizing this way because of just of the heaviness of the bulk of these two images here, and based on color and size. Finally, I just want to talk real quick about this this week's interaction of word lecture, and it's really good. I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at that little video, but it's great. And there's also a few things here that I would like you to really think about when you're composing your images, and that's this. There's a lot thrown at you this week, a lot about converging lines, etc., and how you can find different ways to place your typography and little clues in your images. And this piece here is kind of asking you to start out by using a few different images to create this composition. So there's these different ways. What you did right here is called visual mimicry, and that's excellent because that's right here in number 3. It's one of the techniques that's covered this week. I want you to take a look at some of the other techniques, touching and overlapping of type, and then juxtaposition of type and image, proximity and conceptual relationships, objective type relationships, as well as visual substitution. And you can take a look at the lecture for this week 4. It's presentation number 3, and there's some wonderful examples in there. I'd like you to think about that when you're working forward with the piece. But as I said, I think we've got success here just based on the chances you took typographically. And so good job. Looking forward to seeing more. Thanks very much, Lindsay.